John has tiny calves.
Yes.
They're tiny. They're like almost non-existent. It's the craziest thing. And he works out. Oh, just powerlifting, deadlifting, squats.
Yes.
Calves are still tiny. He's got like literally the perfect frame for fighting because he only has muscle where he needs it. It's like he's designed in a lab. Like if you wanted to design.
Well, John's fight IQ is insane.
Insane.
The guy developed a spinning back kick at 36. Didn't have a spinning back kick his whole career. And then all of a sudden knocks out Stipe with a spinning back kick for the heavyweight title. And did a lot of his career partying, which is even crazier. One of the things he said to Daniel Cormier, which is one of the coldest things anybody's ever said. He said, I beat you when I was on coke.
I beat you after a weekend of back-to-back weekends. Came one, your ass the next. It was great.
The fight is officially on, as Jon Jones has finally chosen to face Tom Aspinall, and his astonishing physical transformation since returning from Thailand has astounded even Joe Rogan.
I think they're trying to come to some sort of an agreement. The rumor is that he wants $30 million, and the UFC is going to pay it.
After watching how much training the heavyweight champion is putting into his fight against Tom Aspinall, the UFC analyst couldn't stop talking. Jones, known for his remarkable talent and physical prowess, has been working hard to perfect his physique for the big fight. Rogan praised Jones' attention to training and nutrition, pointing out considerable changes in his body composition.
John is what I would describe is there's human beings that have different temperament and different minds and different mentality and a ruthless competitive drive that's almost terrifying to the ordinary person. That's Jon Jones. Jon Jones is a bad guy who's trying to be a good guy. Right. But that guy.
According to Rogan Jones, his change shows his dedication to becoming the best version of himself for the battle. Rogan called Jon Jones as a freak of nature. The guy have the skills, power, and charisma. He's a true UFC superstar, but his discipline and drive go beyond that. Jones' impending fight against Aspinall has caused a lot of excitement, with many fans and pundits looking forward to it after several months of waiting.
John is what I would describe is there's human beings that have different temperament and different minds and different mentality and a ruthless competitive drive that's almost terrifying to the ordinary person. That's Jon Jones. Jon Jones is a bad guy who's trying to be a good guy. Right. But that guy.
Aspinall, recognized for his formidable talents and aggressive fighting style, will likely be a tough test for Jones. Nonetheless, Rogan thinks Jones' experience and physicality will give him a major advantage in the bout.
At all. But Aspinall, like that he's something special. He really is something special. He's a very unusual example. Because he's a heavyweight, and he's a big guy, a really big guy, but he moves so fast.
Tom Aspinall is a gifted boxer, but he's about to face his most difficult task yet. I'd like to see whether he can beat Jon Jones, Rogan added. The champion's training camp has been distinguished by intensive sessions as he works relentlessly to improve his methods and plan.
The GOAT. I think if you look at Jon Jones's early career, right? Jon Jones wins the title in 2011, and from then on has fought more fights as championship fights than he has other fights. So he's the most accomplished for sure. Beats Mauricio Shogun Rua, who's a legend. And then the way he dominates all these other fighters, up until you get to Alexander Gustafsson, you could make the argument that he had a similar career.
As the fight approaches, fans are excited to see Jones in action again with his miraculous physique transformation and impressive skills. Jones is ready to make a statement against Aspinall and cement his reputation as the greatest UFC fighter of all time. When asked about Jon Jones' dedication, Joe Rogan mentioned his stringent training methods as the reason he's the sharpest fighter in the UFC.
Make the argument, like if you look at what he did, Jon didn't lose any rounds. Jon was smashing people. You look what he did to Rashad Evans. You look what he did to Rampage Jackson. You look what he did to Lyoto Machida. Look what he did to everybody. You look at the way he beat Daniel Cormier in the first fight. Took him down. Like, who the fuck takes Daniel Cormier down, right? And then you look at him in the second fight, even though it was ruled a no contest, we know what the fuck happened. He head kicked him and stopped him. You know, it was spectacular.
Joe Rogan claimed that Jon Jones' success has been due in large part to his superior intelligence. The prominent podcaster recently utilized UFC 151 to show how excited the two-weight UFC champion is. Jon Jones was due to defend his light heavyweight championship against Dan Henderson in September 2012, However, an injury to the challenger prompted the UFC to try to arrange up a late-notice battle. With Chael Sonnen, Jones refused to meet Sonnen on 8 days' notice, and the UFC canceled an event for the first time in its history.
You're calling out John Jones.
Yeah.
Right? That's the boogeyman. Like, John Jones is the fucking boogeyman. When he fought Gustafsson, he had almost no training camp. They said he barely showed up. Talked to Jackson about it, and Greg Jackson was telling he's like, he didn't even train for that fight. He pulled that fight off in the 4th and 5th rounds. That's when he really turned it up. So you're talking about a guy who hasn't even been training. And then you saw the real John Jones in the second fight. That's motivated John Jones.
Some admirers remain dissatisfied with the American fighter's choice. 13 years later, Rogan feels Jones' willingness to choose his nearly flawless record over money and popular approval is what distinguishes him as the greatest of all time. John Jones is the smartest. Rogan mentioned on his podcast they changed opponents and he fought off men like Chael Sonnen, who he finally stomped on in the first round and completely annihilated. It wasn't even slightly competitive, it was an annihilation. It would have been a destruction every day of the year for decades.
Chael's like a little smaller too. I mean, John's cutting to get to 205. Chael's fighting at 185. Like, sketchy. John is big, dude. He's big. Big and long and strong as fuck. That's too big. Remember when John and him fought? It was a maul.
I don't.
It was a horrific maul.
As amazing as Chael Sonnen is, John Jones was the bigger man. Chael had fought at 185, saying, "No, we do things the right way. I went through a full camp. That's all. The fight is off." Everyone said, because they want you to play ball. Everyone still refers to him as the best of all time. Why is he the best player of all time? Because he did everything right. If you try to call John Jones in for a late notice fight with only 5 days notice, he will urge you to go fight yourself.
Yeah, John beat him up so bad that he broke his own toe pushing off the ground, smashing it.
Related the injury. Let's take a look at it. This is the broken foot. Oh, look at that, ladies and gentlemen. If that doesn't make your feet cry.
If anyone believes in the John Jones against Tom Aspinall bout, it's Joe Rogan, even as John Jones was clearly avoiding the fight. He kept mentioning a planned meeting in the octagon. The prominent UFC analyst and podcaster thinks Jones' championship mindset would prevent him from sitting back and waiting for another chance or even retiring. Bones has ruled the UFC's heaviest division since submitting Cyril Gane in 2023, when he returned to the sport after a 3-year break-ridden hiatus. The promotion's youngest ever champion has already defended his title against Stipe Miocic at UFC 309 in November, and is currently in talks to face Britain's Aspinall. Aspinall currently holds interim championship status in the same division, and has claimed multiple times that he only wants to fight for Jones' title next.
And his coach, Colin, I forget, it's from Cabal, this gym that he trains at in the UK. Colin Huron. He trained Darren Till. Colin, from the early days of the career, was like emphasizing his speed. And so his speed has always been like extraordinary compared to other heavyweights. Like, he just fucking moves in. It's all like fast, explosive movements. So he's got natural speed, but then he's also got a lot of training to execute quickly. So when he moves in, he closes the gap. You can see, like, fuck, he's fast.
This has caused debate in the MMA world, with some thinking that Jones does not need the fight, while others believe the 37-year-old must unify the division to solidify his legacy. On his podcast with former UFC champion Ilia Topuria, Rogan detailed why he thinks the fight is destined to happen. John Jones is one of the finest of all time, he stated, talking about his favorite UFC fighters before Topuria asked the inevitable question. Yes, I believe he will fight Tom. I think he'll hang out for one more glory before the lights go out, Rogan said.
Aspinall's a freak. Like, I've seen a lot of heavyweight, even Francis, who's like the greatest, scariest power striker I've ever seen in the heavyweight division. No one's scarier than Francis. Francis does not move like Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is significantly faster than every other heavyweight. That's a real problem. That's a real problem. But John has been used to fighting guys.
John is a winner. I don't think he can sit back. At age 36, the guy invented a spinning back kick. He hadn't used a spinning back kick in his entire career until he knocked out Stipe for the heavyweight belt at the age of 36 or 37. That is ridiculous. John's combat IQ is high, and he spent much of his time partying. Which is even worse, he shrank his body. He was so good that he outperformed everyone in his group, so he didn't work hard, and now that he has to, he's freaking terrifying. Rogan then noted that when Jones defended his light heavyweight belt for the first time against Alexander Gustafsson in 2013, his coaches nearly called off the fight because the American was not training.
Like Alexander Gustafsson, guys who are really fast at light heavyweight. So the speed is not going to be as much of an adjustment. Like John's used to really fast people. He fought Lyoto Machida when Machida was in his prime. Machida was a lightning bolt, man. And he caught John a bunch of times. But then there's the thing of getting caught by Lyoto Machida is not like getting caught by 255-pound Tom Aspinall.
The UFC 165 main event ended with Jones winning a close unanimous decision over the Swedish fighter in a highly competitive battle. However, in their final rematch 5 years later, Jones seemed a shadow of his first performance after a tough training camp, and he defeated Gustafsson in the third round, according to sources. Bones wants to go on a 6-month training camp to prepare for Aspinall, which is hardly surprising given the Englishman's threats. In his 9 UFC fights, Aspinall has only moved past the first round once, with 8 of his victories coming via first-round stoppage.
See, I think pound for pound, and we won't ever find out. I think Tom Aspinall is the best. I think Tom,
who knows?
I think Tom beats him.
Who knows if John beats him? John might beat him up.
Yeah, he could.
John might take him down and fucking ragdoll him on the ground, like, you know.
John easily could, because we don't know how good John is either.
And we also don't know what happens to Tom Aspinall in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds.
He's
we have zero
because no one's gotten there.
No one's even gotten close.
There's so many question marks, and we don't know how good John is.
Right.
He has earned performance of the night bonuses in all 3 of his most recent fights, knocking out Mark and Tiber, Sergey Pavlovich to win the interim title, and Curtis Blades in round 1. Former UFC champion and British MMA legend Michael Bisping told TalkSport.com last month that Jones should either hurry up or quit. When asked about his next Aspinall fight, he stated, "If they don't announce it soon, they're really going to. Talk about stripping this guy," he just stated. "I mean, in any other sport, if this were boxing, you would be stripped. If you do not face the appropriate challenger, you will be stripped. It's just crazy."
John's the best of all time, or he is the best GOAT, but you can't tell me he's the baddest heavyweight on the planet after being an older Stipe. That's not going to do it for me.
Right.
Aspinall looks fucking good, and he's in his prime.
But Cyril Gane almost beat Francis. I know you can say the thing about the knee, and Jones just smoked him.
Went right through.
We also didn't know fucking Cyril Gane was a fucking 3-stripe white belt.
It's disappointing to see the rest of the league being slowed down like way. But it has nothing to do with me. I don't pull any strings, and remember, you can't strip a guy like me at this time. I give the belt freely. Vidi Vici. Jones hasn't fought since beating Stipe Miocic in Madison Square Garden at UFC 309 last November. And that's all for now. Stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel for the most up-to-date news, events, and actions in the boxing industry. And don't forget to switch on notifications to be informed when we post excellent material like this. Until the next time, peace out.